Hi, and welcome to the third part of my second lesson on the guitar playing of Little Walter. That is the guitar playing that goes on behind Little Walter. And what I'm trying to do is show you an entire arsenal of licks and chords and single string runs and bass rhythms that you can use to play behind a harmonica player or to play with another guitar player and sound interesting and get a solid groove instead of just playing the same thing all the time. Now we're going to work now on some chord progressions from some specific Little Walter songs. Now I'm not exactly positive on these. I think I'm pretty close. If you can correct me with any of this, let me know, because I love to learn this stuff and figure it out. I'm not an expert by any means. Let's start with a tune called Fast Boogie. I think it's called Fast Boogie. At least it's a fast boogie. But let me play this for you one time. This is really cool. I learned this in a book that I have on blues guitar players. I think it's a book by Jerry Rubin, which is really kind of cool. And you hear something like this. Let me just play it through one time. So on, and over the top of that you've got Little Walter blowing up a storm. And I like this because it sounds a lot like swing, and in fact there are a lot of guys in the 50s that were trying to imitate the sounds of Count Basie's guitar player Freddie Green. And the way I'm playing those chords, kind of choking them off and playing them just those downstrokes, that's Freddie Green style. Now, Freddie Green used a lot more complex chords and a lot more chords, but these guys are trying to do their best to imitate it. Louis Myers and Dave Myers behind Little Walter. So this progression, let me teach this to you, and there's some new chords in here. One chord you're going to see is you take an F. Now I think on the recording, they might be using a capo. Don't know for sure. I learned to play this just out of it without the capo. So you put a capo on and you could do this. Now I'm going to do that in a minute and show you how to play another tune. But for this tune, let's just start with the first position E, F bar chord. And then when I take my pinky and drop it in on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, I've got a 6th chord. And that's a chord you hear a lot in blues, swingy blues stuff. Now I've also got my good old 9th chord. That's my F 9th, which we learned before, but now we're playing it at the 7th and 8th frets without the capo. And then for my 4th chord, I kind of went back and forth. I started out like this, and that is a B flat 9, which I could play here too. But I think he's playing it here, just taking my first finger and barring the first 4 strings. That, and then he mixes it up. Each verse he does a little variation with those same positions and those same chords. And then for the 4th chord, I've got a B flat 7, which is just your standard bar chord. Freddie Green probably would have played something like this, and that's a 3-finger chord. But I'm going to play, because I hear the treble strings when I listen to the Little Walter stuff. First finger is barring the 6th fret, and then I've got my second finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, and I've got my, thinking too much, I've got my ring finger on the 8th fret of the 5th string. Then I go to like a minor chord, and that's that swing type passing chord stuff. So here we are, the B flat 7 to a B flat minor. Now I could play B flat minor here, but it sounds to me like he's playing something here with my first finger barring all 3 strings at the 6th fret. Then that's my ring finger, and then my first finger is on the 5th fret of the 4th string. You can also use your pinky down or up 2 frets. do some T-Bone Walker type stuff with that. And then we're going back to the F, and then to the F6. So he plays something like this. And then he walks the ninth chord. Here's that second position ninth chord. This time we're going 2 frets from the C ninth, which is our 5 chord. So we're doing this little move and groove thing with our second position C ninth. And then we go back, and then really cool. Let me play the whole thing for you again one time. Now the tune, I heard it listed as a tune called Fast Boogie, but there's a couple different Fast Boogies that Little Walter did, so you try to find the one that sounds like this. Turnaround, it's all on that same position with the second position C ninth. So there's a kind of a cool progression, and that's sounds so much different than your standard 12-bar type blues thing. Lots of chords, lots of different sounds, very interesting stuff. Another Little Walter song with a really cool chord progression is a tune called One More Chance with You. I've got the capo on the 1st fret, and we're going to play out of the F, play an F using that first position E. And let me play the melody for you one time through, and then we'll talk about it. Part. So that's kind of the intro, sort of a mix of the intro and the verses. And you hear the vocal on that and the harmonica, and that's basically the chord pattern. So what I'm doing here, starting out, this is an E, first position E. So it's like I'm playing your basic cowboy E chord, but I'm just playing it with 2 fingers. That's a country blues thing that I'm used to doing. Got my first finger on the 1st fret with the capo of the 3rd string, and my second finger is getting both the 5th and 4th strings at the 2nd fret. That's an E, and then I take my ring finger and drop it in on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. And we've got our 6th chord. Now I could play it like this with the full E chord. That gets a little crowded. So I'm just playing it like this. You hear that chord throughout the song. So he's playing. And he goes right away to the 5 chord, which is what we would normally have a B ninth, but it's a, I'm thinking hard, B flat ninth. I'm taking my pinky and going down to the 4th fret of the 1st string, and kind of a little like a T-Bone Walker type thing. So that whole first part, then back to the 6th. Okay, got a phone call there right as I was rolling there. So let's take that first part. There's my F, 2nd position F 9th chord with 3 slides. Now back to my 1. Then I'm using the C9, and I'm just doing this. So I'm starting it from the C9th position. That's where I should be. That's where the chord is. But I'm starting from here, from 2 frets up, and I wind up back there. And then we go to our 4 chord, and Okay, I got confused. Let's do the whole thing again. B flat, B minor thing again. So like this. And then back to the 1. And I'm sliding back with that same C ninth from 2 frets above. Then in the tune he's got this kind of a little turnaround. Now at the first verse, when he starts that song off, he plays something like this. And that's the 7th chord. Remember that? So he's just going. And then kind of hammering on the first fret of the 3rd string. And with the open strings, since we're in that E position, it wraps up. So something like that. There you go. So that's a tune called One More Chance With You. He does some stop times in there where he does something like this with the 1. Then he goes to 4. We'll get to those single string runs a little bit later. Little Walter tune with a cool chord progression, which is similar to the 2 that I've showed you already. It's called Boom Boom Out Go the Lights, probably Little Walter's most popular song, that and My Babe. And the tune is an E, at least on the recording. It's either an E or F, and no capo, and we're playing out of the first position E. That's our home chord. And he does some different stuff in this, including the use of add 9th chords and also a strange kind of 7th chord, which I'm going to show you. If you've watched my lessons, you've probably learned these chords already, but I want to show you how they're used in Little Walter stuff. So let me do the main part of Boom Boom Out Go the Lights, which is from the stop time. Out go the lights. And so on. And throughout that tune, he's using these different chords. Now, one chord you hear in there is your E ninth, 2nd position. And he does something with the pinky to the 9th fret of the 1st string, or even moves the whole chord. Something like that over that verse. But it's that 9th chord. Then when he goes to the 4, this is your add 9th chord. So you take an A, 1st position A, bar chord shape, and take your pinky, and this time instead of putting it on the 2nd string to make a 6th chord, we're going to put it on the 1st string at the 7th fret, and you get that A add 9th, the Sonny Boy Williamson stuff. If you've gone through those lessons, you'll remember that. Little Walter's guitar players use this a little more chordy, a little more rhythmically. And so in the song, he's going. And I hear it going from the D, A add 9 to the minor, which is the same one we just heard in the other 2 songs. Also, sometimes I think I hear him just going back to the major chord. Then to the 1. Boom, boom. And he goes, yeah, out go the lights. And then he does the minor, or the 9th chord, which is our same 2nd position 9th chord. This time it's a B 9. And he just starts 2 above, and then back to the 6th, or something like that. He also does something where he does a little choppy thing. And he's sliding. So I'm stroking this would be a, what would that be? D sharp ninth. So I hit it once, and I hit it twice and slide it. I do the same thing back to the B9. Then I go 2 frets up, and then back to my B9. Then to my 1, and then back to my 5. Very infectious melody, melodic type chord sequence there. So that is part of Boom Boom Out Go the Lights. The other thing he does is he uses this chord. Freddie King chord is what I call it, or an Earl Hooker chord. It's a 7th chord. And if you hear Freddie King's Hideaway, this is the stop time where he plays that. Looks hard, but just take some practice. My first finger is barring at the 9th frets, both the 1st and 2nd strings. My pinky is on the 12th fret of the 1st string. My 2nd finger is on the 11th fret of the 3rd string. And my ring finger is on the 12th fret of the 4th string. So during one of the stop times, or during one of the first part of the verse, he's playing. And he goes to the 4. To the stop time. Dun, 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 dun. And that's the chord pattern. So all 3 of those songs use a very similar chord progression. Now in Little Walter's stuff, a lot of times you don't hear the chords used that much. That's why those 3 tunes are different. So I just showed you some new chords. And those are all chords that you'll hear in the Little Walter stuff. Now one other example, which is another unique song, is a tune called Blue and Lonesome. And this is a great tune. This is a slow Little Walter tune where he uses a chromatic harmonica. It has a big old sound. And I love the sound of that thing. And it's in D. It's actually D minor. And the tune starts out, and he does kind of a different minor chord. And this is something Earl Hooker does. When I do my Earl Hooker licks video, we'll talk about this. So here's my first position, D. And if you make a D7 shape, and just take everything and move it over. So your first finger is on the 3rd string, your ring finger is on the 2nd string, and your 2nd finger is on the 4th string. And you put it with the first finger, actually, the first finger is going to be on the 14th fret of the 3rd string. Ring finger is going to be on the 15th fret of the 2nd string, and my 2nd finger is going to be on the 15th fret of the 4th string. So that's a D minor. And he does that at the beginning. Kind of like that. And then most of the tune sounds like it's played up down here. And he does these strums, these rapid strums, almost like You Put a Spell on Me, or I Put a Spell on You. I Put a Spell on You, the Screamin' Jay Hawkins thing. Like the Creedence version where he's playing these. And you just play that over the verse, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes he walks into it. And he's just going one step down. Now on a 5, sounds like he's playing the 7th chord, which is an A7. Whoops, back to the minor. Like that, and then over the top of that you got Luther Tucker playing his fills. And we'll get into that a little bit later when we do the single string and the lead stuff. So that's a minor tune, Little Walter minor tune, where he's playing those. And that is a tune called Blue and Lonesome. And then on the 5 to the 4, he's doing the 7th. And that change from the 7th to the minor, that's kind of a cool little passing chord thing that he does there. So there you have a lot of different chords and chord ideas that you can hear in the tunes of Little Walter. And we started with the 9th chord, 7th chords, and in this lesson I just wanted to show you some songs that he does where he has like a real chord progression, where the rhythm guitar is playing the whole chord progressions instead of just the little fills and vamps and things like that. I hope you found this lesson helpful. When I come back, I'm going to do the 3rd part of this series, and we're going to take a look at double stops.